When I started trading, I had only one dream in my mind: to make money. But if I'm being honest, in the first few years, I lost far more than I ever made. Every day I tried new methods. I trusted every new tip. And each time I entered the market with fresh hope, but the result was always the same: fear, mistakes, and losses. One day I finally understood something important. The mistake was not in the market. The mistake was in the way I was thinking. Every time I was just playing a new gamble. I had no solid plan at all. Today I want to share the biggest lesson that changed my life. In trading, you don't need to defeat the market. You need to defeat yourself. And the way to defeat yourself is simple in theory but hard in practice. Build one system and stick to it. It's not easy, but this is the path that turns a losing trader into a winning one. So watch this till the end. You'll see how I transformed myself from a losing trader into a professional. And if what I'm saying feels real to you, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, because here I share trading truths you won't find anywhere else. So, let's begin. When I first started trading, I had the same desires you probably have right now. The dream of quick money, the urge to prove myself, the hunger to be the fastest in this game. I believed that if I learned to read charts properly, if I entered at the right place, the market would reward me every time. But reality was the exact opposite. I want to be honest with you. Trading broke me. This journey was far more difficult and painful than I ever imagined. Every time I lost, I blamed myself, and whenever I made profit, ego took over and I lost everything in the very next trade. This cycle never stopped. Hope, loss, greed, fear. I know you felt this too. Every time you enter a trade, you think, this time it will be right. And then once again, the same fear, the same mistake. I understand, because I've been exactly where you are today. Took me a long time to realize that the problem is not the market. Market simply does what it does. The real battle is inside us: our thinking, our habits, our fear, our greed. These are the things that force us to lose again and again. That's where my real learning began. I asked myself one question: will I keep losing like this forever, or is it time to build a solid method and learn to stick to it no matter what? That's the same question I want to ask you today. If you're tired of losing, if you want your hard work to finally pay off, you need to ask yourself this question honestly. I decided that I would no longer let trading be a gamble. I would build a system where emotions have no place, only rules, and trust in those rules. This is the right time for you as well. Pause. Look at where what you've been doing so far has taken you, and decide that from now on, you will work with a system and learn to leave fear and greed behind. This journey is not easy, but it is possible, and this is the first step that can turn you from a loser into a winner. When I promised myself that I would no longer gamble in this game, a big question appeared. Why a system? Does a system really make a difference? Let me tell you, before I had a system, every trade brought new hope and new fear. Every time I thought I would beat the market, and every loss slowly destroyed my confidence. This probably happens to you too. You think next time you'll enter better, next time you'll make more money. But when the result goes against you, panic sets in. This is where a system changes your life. When you have a system, a fixed method with clear rules, your mind no longer needs to decide what to do. You don't need to fight your fear, your greed, or panic while watching charts. You simply do what your rules tell you to do. I learned that nothing in the market is guaranteed. Every moment is new, and anything can happen. No one can promise that your next trade will be profitable, and this is where most people get trapped. They think they can predict the next move. But the truth is, no one can read the market perfectly. When you accept that every trade is just a probability, and you have predefined rules for every probability, you save yourself from the stress and fear that comes with every new trade. Through my system, I learned to accept losses as part of the game. I didn't move forward by rejecting losses, but by embracing them, because I knew that within my system were wins far bigger than my losses. If you were still trading with the belief that you'll be smarter next time, you're lying to yourself. Intelligence in trading does not mean predicting the future. It means deciding in advance what you will do in any situation. That's the difference between a professional and a beginner. A professional follows a system. A beginner follows emotions. and you must decide which side you want to be on. I have no doubt that you can win this game too, but for that you must build your own system. And more importantly, you must promise yourself that no matter what happens, you will stick to it. When I finally built my system and defined clear rules for entry, exit, and risk, I thought everything would be fine. But that's when the real challenge began. Building a system wasn't hard. Trusting it was. When the first loss came, the same fear returned. My mind kept saying, maybe this system is wrong. Maybe the market has changed. I know you feel the same when a trade goes against you. You start questioning your rules and think about following intuition instead. But this is where the biggest lesson lies. If you've built your system thoughtfully and tested it, learn to accept the outcome of every trade. My job was not to defeat the market. My job was to follow my system. Every trade is just one probability. The outcome is not in my control. What is in my control is following my rules. When you stick to your fear slowly disappears. Your mind becomes calm. You start seeing market movements as events, not personal attacks. This mindset is what makes you a professional. Losing in the market is not a crime. Losing discipline, breaking your rules, is the real defeat. When you break your rules, you break the promise you made to yourself. So trust your system even if you face early losses. Even if others tell you that you're wrong, don't break your rules. That trust will take you to places you once thought were impossible. Don't try to change the market. Change yourself. Make yourself strong enough to stick to your system in all conditions. That is the real victory. And when you achieve this, you'll notice that money starts coming naturally. Even after learning to trust my system, the real battle was still there. The battle with fear and greed. After a few losses, fear would rise. After a few wins, greed would take over. I learned to stop myself. The purpose of a system is to protect you from these emotions. If emotions control you, you're still part of the losing crowd. Most traders lose because fear forces early exits or greed pushes them to take unnecessary risks. Both slowly destroy you. If you truly want to become professional, you must develop the mental strength to stand by your system in all conditions. Wins or losses should not change your behavior. For me, winning and losing meant only one thing: did I follow my rules or not? If I broke my rules, even profit was a loss. If I followed them, even a loss was a win. Stop chasing fear and greed, and the market will start chasing you. Stay calm. Stay with your system. That's how real professionals are made. When I finally understood my fear and greed, I realized the real change wasn't in my system, but in me. I didn't need to change the market. I needed to change myself. The market will always remain uncertain. Noise will always exist. But your mindset can be fixed. Success doesn't come from finding new strategies. It comes from becoming the person who can follow one strategy consistently. It took me years to learn that success comes from within. When profits and losses became just numbers, my real victory was staying disciplined. The hardest part is staying consistent, not breaking rules during losses, not increasing risk during wins. These two habits decide whether you survive long-term or not. Those who fail do so because they lose trust midway. Those who stick with their system survive the ups and downs and reach their destination, so never quit halfway. Stick to your rules when you lose. Stick to your rules when you win. This discipline will take you where you've always wanted to go. Don't try to change the market. Change yourself. Become strong enough to follow your rules in all situations. That's the true meaning of staying in the game. If you learn to trust yourself and your system, no one in the market can stop you. You are made to win. You just need to make yourself capable of ching that win. That is my final and biggest lesson. At some point in this journey, something very subtle but very powerful begins to happen. You stop asking the market to give you certainty, and instead, you start giving yourself structure. This is where most traders either evolve or disappear. Because once you commit to one system and decide to stay with it, the market immediately tests you, not the system, you. The first real test comes when your system works exactly as designed, but still produces a loss. This moment breaks most people. They say, I followed all the rules and still lost. And because they secretly believe that discipline should guarantee profit, they feel cheated. This is where Mark Douglas's lesson becomes brutally clear. A system is not a promise of winning. It is a promise of consistency. And consistency is the only thing that gives probabilities the space to work. When you truly understand this, losses stop feeling personal. They stop feeling like proof that you are wrong. They become information, neutral, expected, just another data point in a long series of trades. But this level of thinking doesn't come from intelligence. It comes from repetition, from doing the same right thing again and again, especially when your emotions are screaming for you to do something else. Most traders think confidence comes from winning. That is a lie. Confidence comes from knowing exactly what you will do regardless of the outcome. When you don't have that clarity, every tick of price feels like a threat. Every candle feels like a decision. And decision-making under pressure is where fear is born. This is why traders jump from strategy to strategy. They are not chasing better entries. They are running away from emotional discomfort. The moment a system produces a drawdown, they abandon it, not because it stopped working, but because they stop trusting themselves. And every time they do this, they reset their learning curve back to zero. Sticking to one system forces you to confront your deepest trading fears: fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing control. And until you face these fears, no system on earth will save you. You could be handed the most profitable strategy ever created, and you would still sabotage it because your mind has not been trained to operate within uncertainty. The market does not reward intelligence. It rewards discipline. It rewards those who can execute the same edge repeatedly without interference. This is why professional traders often look boring. Their trading lacks excitement. No impulsive entries, no emotional exits, no dramatic wins or losses, just execution over and over again. At this stage, you begin to realize that your system is not just a strategy. It is a mirror. It reflects who you are when pressure is real. A system is not just a method for entering trades, it is a mirror. It shows you exactly who you are when pressure appears. Every rule you break reveals a weakness. Every impulse exposes a belief you haven't dealt with yet. And if you are honest, you begin to see that the real work is not on the chart. It is in your thinking. One of the hardest lessons is accepting that you do not need to be right to make money. You only need to follow your rules. This sounds simple, but it goes against everything the ego wants. The ego wants validation. It wants to feel smart. It wants the market to confirm your opinion. But the market doesn't care about your opinion. It only responds to order flow. When you trade with a system, you stop trying to prove anything. You stop predicting. You stop hoping. You stop fearing. You start responding. And this shift changes everything. Because now your self-worth is no longer tied to the outcome of a single trade. It is tied to your ability to stay disciplined. Over time, something interesting happens. The emotional highs of winning and the emotional lows of losing both begin to fade. Trades lose their power over you. A win no longer makes you reckless. A loss no longer makes you defensive. You remain the same, calm, focused, detached. This is not because you stopped caring, but because you started trusting the process. This is the point where traders begin to survive long-term, not because they found a magical strategy, but because they stopped interfering with a valid one. They gave probabilities enough trades to play out. They stopped micromanaging outcomes. They let statistics do their job. But this level of discipline introduces another challenge: patience, waiting for your setup, letting trades play out without interference, accepting boredom. Most traders don't fail because they lack knowledge. They fail because they cannot sit still. They feel the need to be involved, to act, to trade, and every unnecessary action is another opportunity to break discipline. A system teaches you when not to trade. This is one of its greatest strengths. By defining conditions, it removes ambiguity. No setup means no trade. Simple. But emotionally, this is very hard. Watching the market move. Without you triggers FOMO. You feel left behind. You feel stupid for waiting. And this is where many traders compromise their rules. They tell themselves small lies. This is close enough. I'll just reduce position size. I don't want to miss this move. And the moment you do this, you step outside your system. You re-enter the emotional battlefield. And once emotions are back in control, consistency disappears. A disciplined trader understands that missing trades is part of the business. They know that opportunities are endless, but capital and focus are limited. They are not afraid of missing out because they trust that their edge will appear again and again and again. This trust does not come from faith. It comes from evidence, from journaling, from reviewing trades, from seeing over time that when rules are followed, results stabilize. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but consistently enough to grow. Eventually, you reach a point where trading becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. You know exactly what you are looking for. You know exactly how much you are willing to risk. You know exactly when you are wrong. And because of this clarity, fear loses its grip. You stop trying to control the market. You stop fighting randomness. You accept uncertainty as the cost of opportunity. And in doing so, you gain something most traders never experience: peace. This peace does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop reacting. You operate from rules, not emotions. From structure, not impulse. And this is what allows you to show up day after day, executing the same system, trusting the same process regardless of recent outcomes. At this stage, money becomes a byproduct, not a goal. The goal becomes flawless execution. And ironically, when you stop chasing money, that's when consistency begins to appear. The market will always be unpredictable. That will never change. What can change is your response to it. And the only way to stabilize that response is through one system followed with discipline over a long period of time. This is the lesson most traders hear, but very few accept, because it requires letting go of excitement, letting go of ego, letting go of the illusion of control, and embracing repetition, patience, and trust. If you can do this, if you can build one system and truly stick to it, you don't just become a better trader, you become a different person, more patient, more disciplined, more aware of your own psychology. And that transformation is worth more than any single trade will ever be. As this transformation continues, you begin to notice something subtle about your relationship with the market. The urgency disappears. You no longer feel the need to extract something from every move. Price can rise without you, fall without you, and it no longer creates emotional tension. This is a powerful shift, because urgency is one of the most destructive forces in trading. Urgency pushes you into trades you didn't plan. Urgency convinces you that this moment is special, that this trade is different, that if you don't act now, you'll miss your chance. But once you internalize that the market will be here tomorrow, next week, next year, urgency loses its grip. You stop chasing moments and start waiting for conditions. You also begin to see how deeply trading exposes your habits outside the market. Impatience, avoidance, overconfidence, hesitation. These traits don't start on the chart. They simply reveal themselves there under pressure. A system doesn't just organize your trades, it organizes your behavior. It forces you to slow down, to wait, to accept outcomes without immediate feedback. And in doing so, it retrains your nervous system. You are no longer reacting to every fluctuation. You are responding only when your rules say so. This discipline slowly carries over into other areas of life. You become less reactive in conversations, less impulsive in decisions, more comfortable with uncertainty. Another realization eventually sets in: losses are not the enemy. Inconsistency is. A single loss means nothing. Even a series of losses means nothing if they occur within the boundaries of your system. What truly damages a trader is not drawdown, but deviation. The moment you start changing position size emotionally, skipping rules selectively, or trading out of boredom, you introduce chaos. And chaos is what makes results unpredictable. The irony is that most traders are afraid of randomness, yet their behavior is the random variable in their performance. A system removes that randomness by limiting what you are allowed to do. As your execution improves, you stop evaluating yourself trade by trade. You start thinking in samples. 20 trades, 50 trades, 100 trades. This perspective is crucial because it aligns your mindset with how probability actually works. No edge expresses itself in isolation. It needs repetition, and repetition requires patience, trust, and emotional control. When you truly understand this, you stop asking, "Will this trade work?" and start asking, "Did I execute correctly?" That question alone changes everything. You may also notice that the market seems quieter. Not because volatility disappeared, but because you are no longer interpreting every movement as meaningful. Most price action is noise. Without a system, noise feels important. With a system, noise is ignored. This filtering effect is what brings clarity. You are no longer overwhelmed by information. Indicators, opinions, news, predictions, they all fade into the background. Your rules decide what matters. Everything else becomes irrelevant. At this stage, temptation still appears, but it no longer controls you. You might see a strong move outside your setup and feel the familiar pull to jump in. But instead of acting, you observe the feeling. You recognize it as emotion, not information, and you let it pass. This ability, to feel without reacting, is one of the most valuable skills a trader can develop. It marks the transition from emotional participation to professional execution. There will be periods when your system underperforms. This is inevitable. Markets change conditions. Volatility expands and contracts. Trends strengthen and weaken. A mature trader understands that no system performs perfectly in all environments. But instead of abandoning the system at the first sign of discomfort, they analyze it objectively. They ask whether the edge is still valid, whether execution is still clean, whether the rules are being followed. They make adjustments only after sufficient data, never in response to emotion. This restraint is what protects long-term performance. Over time, your confidence becomes quieter. You no longer feel the need to talk about trades, to prove success, to showcase wins. External validation loses importance because your internal standards are clear. You know when you performed well. You know when you didn't. And that self-awareness becomes your compass. This is a level of independence many traders never reach because it requires detaching identity from outcome. You also begin to respect risk in a deeper way. Risk is no longer something to overcome. It is something to manage. You understand that survival is the first objective. Growth comes second. You size positions not based on excitement or conviction, but on predefined limits. You protect capital not because you are afraid, but because you are professional. You understand that style in the game is what allows probabilities to work over time. As the months and years pass, trading becomes less about excitement and more about rhythm, preparation, execution, review, repeat. This routine may look boring from the outside, but within it lies consistency. And consistency is what compounds, not just financially, but psychologically. You trust yourself more because you keep your promises. You trust your system more because you respect it. And that mutual trust creates stability. Eventually, you stop thinking of trading as something you do and start seeing it as something you practice. Like any craft, mastery comes from deliberate repetition, not intensity. You don't force results. You allow them. You show up, execute, and let time do the heavy lifting. This patience is rare, but it is also what separates those who last from those who burn out. You may still have difficult days. Losses still happen. Drawdowns still test you, but they no longer define you. They no longer derail you. You understand that discomfort is part of the process, not a signal to abandon it. And this understanding gives you resilience. In the end, the system you build becomes more than a trading framework. It becomes a structure for decision-making under uncertainty. It teaches you how to act without certainty, how to commit without guarantees, how to stay disciplined without immediate reward. These skills extend far beyond the market. And perhaps the most important realization of all is this. The goal was never to control the market. The goal was to control yourself. The market was simply the training ground. Through repetition, discipline, and trust, you didn't just learn how to trade, you learned how to think. And once that changes, the results eventually follow, not because you chased them, but because you became capable of sustaining them.